You will fail. How many times are you going to hear this? And from how many directions? I'm going to cover a couple of groups that tend to want to tell us that we're going to fail. And I'm going to give you ways to work around this. You're going to hear it over and over and over that you're going to fail. I'm specifically tying this to reaching financial freedom for the average person. So if this is your first time to my channel, that is the purpose of my content. My goal is to teach the average individual that you can reach financial freedom in 10 years or less, even if you're not starting from the best position. If you let anyone in your circle know that that's your goal, that your intent is to make work optional in 10 years or less, whether it's to retire early or to be able to do a job that you love without having to worry about what you make, you're going to be hear from multiple sources that you're going to fail. You will fail. You'll have reasons why you fail. You'll have explanations. You'll have everyone's excuses. I'm going to cover some of the different sources of the phrase, you will fail. And I'm going to tell you how to work around them. The first, and I'm going to use myself as an example here, because that's my relatable content to me. This is the position I know. When I started working towards financial freedom, there were several directions where the phrase, you will fail, were coming from. The first is the world. The world is going to tell you are going to fail, because when we start focusing on our finances, when we decide I'm going to focus on financial freedom, we have what's called a starting position. When you look at your starting position, we usually have a reason why. This is the point in time I'm going to start paying attention to my finances. Now, for me, I had made it to 40 without ever really having more than $1,000 in the bank. I was a single parent with 3 kids. I lost 2 pensions, right? After Desert Storm, the Marine Corps downsized. After 2008, in the housing crash recession, I got laid off from law enforcement. So after losing those pensions due to things outside of my control, I decided I need to take charge of my finances. And so I look at that as my starting point. My starting point is not when I was born, how I was born, how much money my parents had, but it's when I woke up to the idea that I need to take charge of my finances. So here I was, 40, single parent, 3 kids, laid off from law enforcement, started teaching people how to drive trucks at a CDL school, making $17 an hour. And I found out about $89,000 in bad debt in my name. I found out recently that I'm the most Googled name when it comes to $89,000 in bad debt. Not something that I want to put on my roster of things I'm super proud of, but that's my starting position. Other than missing a major health concern, I think I had the world pointing at me saying, you're not going to reach financial freedom. You don't make a lot. You got a bad debt to income ratio. You have at least 3 people depending on you to feed them, because it is your sacred duty as a parent to make sure that 50% of your offspring make it to the age of 18. Let's add to the fact that because of the 2008 housing crash, and me partially being one of the reasons why it happened, I had an adjustable rate mortgage on a house that had lost value. When the rate went up, I was underwater on my house. I owed more money on my house than it was worth, and my rate was adjusting. Line up all of those things at that starting position. Yours might be different. I hope they're better. You may have different challenges. You may have worse challenges. You may have easier challenges, whatever they are. I forget who said this, but if nothing severe occurs in your life, whatever occurs in your life seems severe. Whatever problems you have, you might think this is the reason why I can't reach financial freedom. And here's how we work around that. It's a starting point. If you didn't have a starting point, if you didn't have a day of realization saying, wow, retirement's really going to suck for me, or I'm going to have to work until I die. If you don't have that dawning realization of how bad things are, that it becomes time to actually take action, take charge of your finances, to start the path to financial freedom, then you'll never start. So let's not look at the laundry list of reasons why it will be really hard for us to reach financial freedom, and instead look at, here's the list of motivating factors that tell me I should take charge of my finances. So that's the first thing that was telling me you will fail. The second thing, and you're going to find out that this happens all the way through your journey to reaching financial freedom. People who make less than you. People who are struggling with income, are struggling with their expenses, or maybe not make less, but live more paycheck to paycheck than you. Because there are people who make $250,000 a year that are living paycheck to paycheck, and maybe that's more than you make. But the people who are not as successful as you are going to be the first group of people telling you, you're going to fail. You can't do this. It's not possible. The system's rigged against you. The government wants to keep you poor. They want to keep you down. They're going to blame it on whatever source that they can use to blame on their own struggles will be why you're going to fail. So that's the second group, the people who are doing less than you. You will very rarely, not never, but very rarely have somebody who's more successful than you tell you you can't do it. Those are on the list of things. Favorite thing tenant ever said to me. I was re-signing a lease with a Section 8 tenant where there was a pretty significant increase to the rents. Why did my computer freak out? Is my internet not liking me today? I'm back. Sorry for that. Wish I knew how long it was gone. Gotta love YouTube. You will fail if you go to make a YouTube channel too. You're going to hear that when you start one. Or why are you even doing that? You're not funny. You're not handsome. Nobody wants to listen to you. You've lost all your hair and your shirt's wrinkly. The people you know, the people you meet are going to tell you that you can do this. But the people who live in fear, so that was the one I'm covering now. The people who live in perpetual fear, who won't take any action with any investing, are going to tell you that you can't reach financial freedom by investing in real estate because they won't invest in anything. So how do you get past the people who tell you you can't do it because their position is harder than yours and they can't do it? Or the people who live in fear is you mitigate the fear. You increase your income so that you can increase your savings rate. You decrease your expenses. You move farther away from living paycheck to paycheck so that you can invest. With the people who live in fear of your tenant can trash your property, move that to my tenants are going to trash my property. What is the system I'm going to have to handle when that happens? I will have reserves. I will have handymen and contractors lined up ready to handle those big maintenance items that are going to come up because tenants are going to break things. I am going to calculate the yield on my properties to include setting aside a portion of gross rents on repairs, maintenance, and vacancy so that when those costs come up, I'm not paying for it. The tenants have been paying month after month after month into an account that covers those expenses. I diversify my portfolio. What if you have a rental that sits empty too long? What if you have to cover the mortgage? That's the thing you're going to hear from the people who are living in fear about every form of investing that there is. They live in fear that their retirement account could drop significantly the year that they retire, making their retirement maybe not possible or much rougher than it needs to be. No matter what, they're going to live in fear. So we have the same fears, mitigate them. I diversify my properties by having them more than 10 miles apart, close to several economic drivers. So I'm going to get tenants from multiple sources. I have about 1/3 military, 1/3 Section 8, 1/3 working or retired. So I've diversified my tenant base. I invest in properties that help limit tenant turnover. I want side-by-side units instead of over-unders. I want places with yards that are pet friendly because people with pets don't like to move. It's a relocation for the animal. I want washer dryer hookups in the units. I want at least 2 bedrooms and a garage because more space equals more stuff, less likely to move. I have mitigated the fear that is stopping other people in their tracks by developing systems, because you can never take a risk to zero, but you can make it a lot less likely to happen. Here is a category of people who are going to tell you that you're going to fail, who may suggest this, and it may shock you. You may not expect this. Earlier in the video, I talked about less successful people, people who are really living paycheck to paycheck, not wanting you to succeed. They have the lobster bucket mentality, right? maybe it's crab pot mentality, a bunch of crabs or lobster in a container that could climb on top of each other and get some out, but they will pull each other down trying to be the one that gets out. The people who are making less, that are struggling more, are going to try to keep you at their level, not let you become successful. So I said, usually you're going to have people who are more successful being motivational, complimenting you, being supportive, but not always. I have two examples of people that were partially responsible for my motivation to want to reach financial freedom and to use real estate to do it. I have a brother who has 10 paid off rentals, and I have a friend who owned a brokerage with 19 agents working for him in real estate, had invested in real estate for decades and had 30 rentals, and then retired with those rentals. So these are two examples of people who purchased rentals and then retired. And that provides significant motivation for somebody like me to say, they seem like average guys. I look up to my brother in a lot of ways, but he's kind of an average guy. He's done this, maybe I can do this. Well, they have different resources than I did. One doesn't have kids, and he was able to work in real estate with fluctuating income for years and cherry pick the best rentals that came in the door to build his portfolio. Almost all single family houses, almost all acquired with cash, and all acquired decades ago. And then I have my brother, who used a home equity line of credit. So he had equity in his house. I was underwater. Remember, I owed more on my house than it was worth. And he would take the home equity line of credit and buy mobile homes on acreage that were basically falling down. And then with his craftsman skills, he would build them into a nice rental and pay off the home equity line of credit until he had 10 that were paid off. So I didn't have equity. I don't have the skills. I didn't have the time or bandwidth to do what he was doing. So I had to find an investing strategy that worked for me. When I started looking at investing, single family houses in my area do not cash flow. So the way that my friend that had 30 rentals, with his ability to have a fluctuating income and working as an agent, being in the office for the best deals to come in the door, wasn't an option. No line of credit option, no skill set to repair the rentals. So both of the ways that they did it didn't work for me, but their end result was motivation for me to start. When I reached out to my friend before he retired and said, "You're an agent. You're the only agent I know. Why don't you be my mentor?" Which is a mistake a lot of new investors do. They work in the industry. He's got rentals. He's my friend. He will help me and not even charge me money. But he invested in a different era, in a different asset class that I was pursuing. So the first few small multifamily deals that I made offers on that he found for me would have bankrupted me, would have been negative cash flowing properties. And when my brother found out that I was buying a duplex with a mortgage, something that he had never done, this is a familial term of love in my circle, he called me a blithering idiot and a moron. Because anybody with a mortgage is taking too big of a risk with their rentals, and he could never sleep at night if he had debt. Every time he used the home equity line of credit to buy the next property, he focused every ounce of energy and every penny coming in to obliterate that HELOC, to get rid of it, because he can't stand having debt. So when I tried to say, my goal is a couple million in debt, I'd like to have 10 or 20 million, but I'm going to start with the goal of a couple million, he called me a moron. You will fail. You cannot invest in real estate with mortgages. My one friend purchased mostly with cash. My brother used his line of credit and paid it off. So when I started buying properties with a mortgage, successful, retired early people who did it with rentals told me there was no way I can do it. So it is entirely possible that you pick an investing strategy in a market where currently, with the current market conditions, it's the best strategy for you to pick. It meets your goals. It meets your bandwidth of time and ability to learn that you have to invest successfully with that strategy. You might encounter investors that are more successful than you, who tell you all of the reasons why you are going to fail. Then there's this big group of people, and they make a lot of money by being the group of people who are going to tell you all of the ways that you are going to fail. We call them, another familial term of love and endearment, the crash bros and crash sisters of the world. When I started investing, the 2008 housing crash had happened. the recession happened. I got laid off from law enforcement. I started teaching people how to drive trucks, making $17 an hour. I found out about all the bad debt. And around 2013, when I finally saved up the money for a down payment on an owner-occupied house hack duplex, 5% down, so I wasn't buying all cash, didn't get money from mom and dad. I showed in a live stream the other day the 2 inheritances that I actually did get, because they're both still in the room with me here. In 2013, home prices started to climb above where they were in 2008. So the crash bros started coming out of the woodwork, online, YouTube University, in the real world, in investing circles of this is, and this is my favorite term because it's a load of crap, unsustainable. There is no way people can afford houses if they cost more than they did in 2008 because there was a housing crash in 2008. So if you're buying now, you're an idiot. You're going to fail. How many times did we hear that from 2013, continuously every 2 weeks for the last decade to today, still happening, that home prices are going to cause a crash? Then in 2015, the crash bros and crash sisters started harping. And I saw this the other day, like today, maybe this morning, in an answer of my next live stream where I took a bunch of screenshots of where I just want to talk about the responses to this. The baby boomers are all going to retire. So we're going to have a massive flood of inventory. In 2015, based on the math of baby boomers aging retirement, this was going to be called the silver tsunami. Didn't happen then, isn't happening now because of the rate lock. Now, 2018, interest rates went above 6%, and people lost their minds. The crash bros and crash sisters came out using this flawed, stupid metric of every time interest rates go up 1%, home prices come down 10%. So we're above 6%. There must be a crash coming. Buying power goes down when interest rates go up, which means less transactions. But with a limited supply in a high demand scenario, you're still going to see prices grow, which they did. In 2018, I bought a duplex for $298,000. That's worth over $600,000. It's like $620 now. That's a 100% increase in a time where everybody, crash bro and crash sister, was expecting a decline in prices. 2020, eviction moratorium. The world shuts down. People don't have to pay their rent, and you can't kick them out. Don't buy real estate. The crash bros went nuts and started making a ton of money on YouTube because they get 50 to 100,000 views on a video explaining why this week, here's the new reason for the crash that hasn't happened for a decade and still continues to not happen. But it's new, and it's a new reason, so you should pay attention because they get a lot of views. In 2022, interest rates doubled in less than a 12-month period. I've not seen that in my life that I remember, but interest rates doubling in a 12-month period, again, have to cause prices to come down. Don't buy real estate. So you are going to fail. The crash bros and crash sisters are giving people an excuse to not take action because of all of the reasons why the crash is coming. If you are listening to them, you can sit back and you can feel justified that you're not buying real estate, because the one thing I haven't explained is you will fail. What's the definition of that? What does failure look like? I started not making a lot of money, single parent, 3 kids, bunch of bad debt I didn't know about until the divorce, and I had to work. So if I invest, successfully reach financial freedom, never have to work again, I succeeded. What if I failed and I didn't reach financial freedom and I had to continue working, and all I did was acquire 4 or 5 rentals that make me a couple $1 million in net worth when I retire, and they make my retirement at a normal, when people think of retirement as an age, normal retirement age, a lot better than what it would have been if I didn't invest at all? Is that failure because I didn't reach financial freedom? What if there's a crash and rents go down? Now, I've planned my portfolio around rents dropping 50%, and I still don't have to go back to work, even though since we've started tracking the data in 1940, rents have never once, ever in a 5-year period gone down market-wide. I plan on it. But what if failure was rents dropped so much that I had to sell all my properties and I lost a bunch of money and everything was gone? My worst case nightmare scenario is I'm back where I started, exactly where everybody is who didn't invest because Crash bros and crash sisters talked him out of it. Investors that invested in a different time era and a different strategy told him they couldn't do it. People who are struggling more than them and the situation, the circumstances of their world told them that you would fail and didn't take action. The worst case scenario is I end up back where I was. I'm going to wrap this video up by looking through the comments really quick before I do that. I do my live streams every Tuesday at 4 p.m. Pacific, and my goal is to answer every question that comes in. I'm going to look through here really quick, say howdy to everybody. Hopefully this sounded a little bit like a rant, because you can reach financial freedom. I truly believe you can do this. The average person can do this in less than 10 years, even if you're not starting from the best position. And this might be one of the only places that you hear them. You might not hear it in your own mind. You're definitely not going to hear it from your situation usually. You're not going to hear it from the haters. You're not going to hear it from the crash bros and crash sisters. I think you need to surround yourself with the people who are supportive and know that, yeah, there's risks involved. But how do you mitigate that? And yeah, it is going to take 5 to 10 years. That's a long time commitment. But those 5 years are going to happen anyway. You are going to be alive in 5 years. You should start investing like it. Oh, Jack, you heard your phone ding? So notifications rarely work, but they did today. Duplex Dave, I worked in federal law enforcement just long enough, 20 years to get my pension. I need to redouble my effort now in real estate, especially in the difficult market, making another offer today. Awesome. Let me know how it goes. Jack, people will keep shirts after retirement are ones that didn't retire to something and have too much time to waste on their hands. Yes, exactly. Retire to something, not from something. Something I take from Joe Kuhn here on YouTube. Ben, howdy. Have you ever used your real estate reserves, not personal reserves, for renovations on a new deal, or do you only use money that you've saved up with your down payment? I would want to say every time, but remember, according to Tarantino, the less a man makes declarative statements, the less apt he is to look foolish in retrospect. And this is a declarative statement. One time, I used my personal reserves to put a roof on a building, but it wasn't my first, second, third, or fourth deal. It was when I bought my fourplex. It actually broke this deal down on BiggerPockets as my deal deep dive. I dropped down to where I had $200 to my name, saving, checking, everything, $200. Had $17,000 on my credit card that was not touched. Had my retirement accounts that I was using as a reserve, didn't touch those. You don't have to take them out when you do that. You just have to prove that they're there, that they're seasoned. And I was on my fifth deal, I had cash flow of several thousand a month coming in. I was buying a property that was currently occupied, closed on the 6th of January. So I got the January rents and I got the February rents without a payment for February. So by $200 in the beginning of January, over $10,000 back in the savings account by February. That's why when somebody says, oh yeah, I can do this, you want to know, where are they at chronologically in their investing? Like recently, on BiggerPockets, I watched the most recent BiggerPockets episode. I recommend you check it out. It had Mindy Jensen. I'm a Mindy fan. It had David Green, and I think there was a couple of other guys there. I was listening, not watching, like most of us do on YouTube. That's why everybody can't tell right now I'm not wearing any clothes, because you're just listening, not watching. But made you look. They talked about buying alligators, buying deals that lose money. And they broke down an appreciation play on a property that actually lost $800 a month and how it made sense. I've talked several times about making an appreciation play and how it makes sense if you have a large portfolio with a large cash flow and you take a small portion of it. Michael Zuber took 1% of his net worth and bought Bitcoin. Doesn't study it, doesn't trade it, doesn't he just bought it, stood it there, might make money, might lose money, but because it's only 1% of his net worth, it's a play that your portfolio can make at that scale. When you watch an episode of BiggerPockets and they talk about buying alligators, and I think Mindy broke this down really well, it's not the starting strategy you want to do. But if you have a large enough portfolio, yeah, you might make a value add or a gamble on a property on appreciation on a small portion of your portfolio. Same thing with when it comes to, have you used your personal reserves to do this? Yes, that one time. I dropped down. I was way below the threshold, but it was such a great deal. That's one of the deals that's made me over $1 million in net worth, which I don't track, but it also was paying me when I first moved in $1,700 a month to live there in profit. Yeah, I was going to do that deal, even if it dug into the reserves. Good question. So no on the first 4, once since then, never since again. Ninja Vanish. I have noticed a strange phenomenon where people will get jealous of others in their circle getting ahead a little, but they have no problem with people they don't know doing very well for themselves. Absolutely. I told you, it's that crab pot mentality. People don't want to see you succeed if they know you. Familiarity breeds contempt, but the random person that you meet on YouTube that you're trying to help will be very supportive. E-commerce, Ryan, howdy. Using Dion's strategy has worked for me so far. I have 1 rental and so far so good. Good. That sounds like a great start. Brendan, I've watched all your videos and just has my first tenant sign their lease today. Truly grateful for your wisdom. Thank you. Congratulations. That was a good feeling. Enjoy those first couple of rent checks. The excitement of rents coming in, I don't know that it ever goes away. I should ask Matt that, the lumberjack landlord. I wonder if he gets to a point where I still, first week of the month, watch the vertical pong happen in the checking account. Hit the like button or the lumberjack will put you in his jail. Exactly. Might be a fun stay though. All right, I am just reading through here in case there's any questions that I miss. We're getting a duplex from Joshua where the tenant is about $300 to $400 under market and has been there 15 plus years. Would you think the binder method would bring it up that high? They're an elderly couple. I've always been, every time so far with my tenant, not every, don't make declarative statements, except for once, been shocked at the amount the tenants asked for it to go up. So if you take the binder course, which you can find at diontalk.com, the goal isn't to get rents all the way up to area average rents. If you want area average rents, that generally takes kicking a tenant out and doing the full rehab, spending somewhere between 5 and 15 grand to fix everything in that rental, if not more, and then get maximum area average rents. The goal is to get higher and bigger increase than you would probably feel comfortable doing. You know, most people it's like $50 or $100. After that, I feel kind of mean, but you might be shocked when you find that that tenant's been there for 15 years and you kind of educate them on here's what the options are with the other rentals in the area. And this is the price that my property taxes and my insurance is going to be based on. They might ask for if they're, and you said, we'll say they're $400, they might ask for $3. If they're $300 to $400, they might ask for $200 or $250. Let me know how it goes. And it is kind of a mental thing. I've got my friend with those 30 rentals. He's actually got tenants in place for 10, 15, 20 years. Never raised the rent. And he said it worked for him for a few years because every time a tenant would leave, then he would rehab the unit and he would get good rents, right? So he was successful at that. But with the interest rate so high, home prices so high, other rents so high, his tenants aren't leaving. They're going to stay forever at the rents that they're getting. So now his strategy might not be as successful for him as property taxes, cost of repairs, maintenance, vacancy, handyman wages, insurance keep going up. I've actually offered to sit down, I do the binder strategy with all 30 of his tenants. It's kind of friendly. I'd take the time and go make the binder. I'd go have the conversations to get his rents where they want. I think he'd be shocked at the probably $300,000 more in profit he would make next year with happy tenants. So let me know how it goes. Thank you for hanging out with me on today's Thursday live stream. Until my next video, thanks for coming to my Dion Talk. I think I'm going to end this with a song. This was the mnemonic song on real estate.